Alright, new iPhones are here. Now, although they've been out for a little while, this is finally my chance to be able to use them and play with them, actually at home, in hand, and just have a good time with them. Now, with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, like I have here in my hand, there is very little that is actually, well, new. Some minor stuff, of course, but a very slight new design. Obviously, there's camera control as well as Apple Intelligence, and I will sort of elaborate on all of that. And I'm afraid this may be sad for some of you. However, Apple is no longer placing stickers inside of their box anymore, meaning that's just no longer an option. So, if you want stickers, you're going to have to actually buy them. Although I don't really think that people are actually in that heavy of a need of stickers. But without further ado, let's take a look at this device and see what's going on. Now, this is a year where the iPhone gets a very, very, very small upgrade. Right? If I compare this iPhone 16 Pro Max to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, very little has changed. Now, one of the first noticeable changes is obviously going to be the new button. Now, this is called camera control, and I find it weird because Apple completely refuses to call it a button anywhere. They call it camera control, or during interviews when people would ask about it, they would describe a button, but they wouldn't call it a button. Now, camera control is very interesting. You can click on it once to open the camera. Now, what I find interesting is if you full press it, right, that takes a photo, which is to be expected. Now, if you press on it to get the phone to vibrate, that opens up a menu, right? And in my case, it is set on the F aperture. Now, if you double press on it to get the phone to vibrate, it opens up another list of menus where you can control different camera things. Now, this is interesting because all of these same exact buttons are already easily accessible just on the phone itself, so I don't know necessarily why camera control needed to exist, but it did nonetheless. So you've got things like exposure, depth, zoom, cameras, styles, as well as tone. Now, it does give you some cool controls here, and the styles and tone stuff is new with the iPhone 16, and I do think it is very cool. But let's say we click on zoom. So you press on it once, and then that opens up the zoom bar. Now, what you can do is scroll your finger left to right or right to left, and what that's going to do is just zoom in on the camera. So it is a touch capacitive, button, allowing you to control different things. Now, what I find interesting is you don't actually have to press it all the way to activate it first. What you can actually do is just run your finger over it and it'll start activating anyway, which I do find very convenient, if you're going to use it. But camera control is one of those things where I'm not completely sure why it exists, but I guess it can be useful in certain scenarios, is kind of my initial take. Now, as I continue to sort of live with this button, my opinion could totally change, but that's just kind of where I'm at currently. But I mean, hey, it, if anything, doubles as a way to open the camera, I guess, which, I mean, you could already do 300 other ways, but there you go. So while we're on the topic of kind of new physical changes, let's talk about this quote-unquote redesign. Now, Apple calls it a redesign. It's really not. Nothing much between the iPhone 15 Pro and the iPhone 16 Pro have changed, except for the fact that the iPhone 16 Pro Max has, gone up 0.2 inches. Right, so the 15 Pro Max at its biggest, right, was 6.7 inches, diagonally measured, I should say. But the new iPhone 16 Pro Max is 6.9 inches, which is barely noticeable, right? It is noticeable, but if you're not comparing them side by side, it's not going to make a massive difference, I will say. Now, with this slightly larger screen, they do actually include even thinner bezels, which, hey, I mean, we expected, right? It's, every year they got to get a little thinner. So it is an overall bigger screen, which is obviously welcome and very nice. But as far as a redesign is concerned, I don't know that this is really what you would consider a redesign. Now, this color is in the Desert Titanium variant, and this one is going to be used in a case almost entirely all the time. But if it does start to sort of get marks and stuff, I will definitely let you guys know about that. But for the most part, everything about the phone physically is pretty much the same. I mean, it feels great in the hand, right? It looks like a piece of jewelry. It feels like a piece of jewelry. It really is a nice piece of tech, right? But Apple has always been nice like that. Now, before we get to Apple Intelligence, I should have covered this a minute ago when I was on the topic of cameras, so I am going to drag you guys back for just a second. But when I was talking about camera control, I didn't really mention the other new features called like tone and styles. Now, photographic styles have been sort of a thing since the iPhone 13 Pro Max and 13 Pro, and they have been useful, possibly maybe in certain ways, although I typically just don't use them. But this version of photographic styles is a good amount different, a good amount revamped, and I feel like a lot more useful. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a photo of an iPhone box. Now, what we can do is, of course, either in the live camera app, change the way these photographic styles look and dial in all of our settings that way. But if we really want to, we can also just take a photo and, of course, change them afterwards as well. So when you go to the edit page on the iPhone, the first thing you'll see is styles open up, and it's going to open up in standard. Now, if you click on standard, you can move your thumb on this little, like, D-pad, I guess you would call it, and just sort of dial in like your tone and your color a lot more specifically than you could beforehand. We scroll to the right, all on the left side is going to be kind of presets. You've got like cool rose, neutral, rose gold, gold, amber, stuff like that, just preset filters almost. But if we scroll to the left and go all the way to the right, the first thing you'll see is vibrant, natural, luminous, dramatic, all kinds of more, I guess, dramatic filters. And what's crazy is you can, let's say we click on the dramatic one. We can click on it, again, to open it up even further, and you'll see a D-pad, but you'll also see a bit of, like, I guess it's kind of a saturation slider to saturate and desaturate it a little bit. Or maybe it's just to change the colors. I'm not really too sure. But we can use this D-pad to really kind of get the dramatic look we're looking for. If we're wanting more of like a blue in the shadows kind of dramatic, we can do that. It's very interesting, right? I feel like if you can set it up the right way and make it right, it definitely will give you the photo you're looking for, just because there is just so much more control in there. But it's interesting. I feel like older phones which have photographic styles definitely would be able to support this, but I know Apple has to market some features for the new phone and save them for that. Now that we can finally step away from the camera topic, actually, that's not true. One more thing. The new ultra-wide camera has now 48 megapixels, meaning your photos with the ultra-wide camera are going to be a bit sharper and just look a little better. So all we have left is the 5x telephoto lens, which also is now on the smaller 16 Pro, which is stuck at 12 megapixels. But hey, new ultra-wide, sharper photos, I'll take it. So quickly on the topic of Apple Intelligence, it's a very confusing topic. Now, the iPhone 16 lineup in its entirety, Apple has said, is built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence, right? They've said that, right? And first off, when these phones shipped, there was zero Apple Intelligence on them whatsoever, not an ounce of it. Now, since then, since of the recording of this video, Apple has released iOS 18.1, which has offered the first features of Apple Intelligence. We're talking like cleanup in photos, writing tools, very basic stuff. And can you really call an iPhone built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence if it doesn't even ship with Apple Intelligence? I mean, really, like, come on. So that's besides the point, right? Let's focus on what we have right now. And right now we have writing tools and cleanup. Now they both work awesome. I will say, like, if I'm trying to clean up a paragraph, or rewrite it or change it, have it summarize it, it works, right? It really does work. And cleanup as well. Like as I'm circling objects and photos to clean them up or blur faces, it works, right? Now in the future, right? I'm currently testing the beta on my main phone, actually, iOS 18.2. And that's going to have all of these sort of chat GPT integrations type features. Now, though, that's when it really starts to become useful, right? Because now Siri is leveled up a solid amount. But that's not what's on this phone right now.
becomes firmer and more solid. This is from Collins Dictionary.
Okay. Anyways, I guess we're gonna get her to butt in on this conversation. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Anyways, um, what I'm saying is we don't currently have Chat GPT integration stuff like that yet. So I'm talking about the phone as it currently is, with very very limited Apple Intelligence features. And Marquez Brownlee actually said this, which I think is very true. This is the most unfinished iPhone Apple has ever shipped, which I 100% agree with because there's so much that Apple has promised which has not come yet. And I think they're getting way too comfortable with that, which is becoming a bit of a problem, I would say. And I know that people would agree with me. So, yeah, unfinished device. And just a couple little minor things here. If you do care about fast charging, the phone does charge a little bit quicker, and it does charge now, I believe, at 25 watts using the official Apple MagSafe charging puck. So, I mean, that's good, I guess I would say. It's now wirelessly charges faster than my phone, but for the most part, I mean, it's a phone, right? It's a very nice feeling, very well built phone. And for someone who maybe has an iPhone 11, 12, maybe 13, it's definitely, I would say it's a solid upgrade. Just with all of the stuff that eventually kind of adds up over the course of time. But if you've got like an iPhone 14 or especially the iPhone 15, I definitely would not upgrade. Just I would wait a couple more years, right? See what Apple sort of brings to the table after that. But that's really been it. This is my first time really kind of using this phone at home and just getting to play around with it. So I will be making more videos like this in the future. But if you enjoyed it, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell as it helps me out a ton. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think and what you would like me to talk about. See ya.